Okay, thank you for that. QSP, QSP, QSP. This is November 2nd, Alpha Papa Whiskey. On the available connections. Before I take seconds, I'd like to pause for any priority or emergency traffic. Hearing none, I'd like to welcome everybody to the net and thank all those who are checking in and also all those who are listening to the net. Some minor changes for this net at this point in time, and I'll try my best to cover them all. You can listen and participate on the net by connecting to the 9H1 DMR-L link, link on, Echo link. And you can also listen and participate if you have DMR. Call group 2780 on DMR. If you have C4FM, you can link or connect to the 9H1 DMR repeater, and it is also linked to our net. Let me take a pause. November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey. The Echo Link feature on 9H1 UHF is currently not available, and so ASME will be monitoring 9H1 UHF just in case some people check in through there, which is what we've been doing for a very long time. But you can't listen to the net on 9H1 UHF because the Echo link is not currently available. And finding the channel 9H1-M, GlobalNet, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Anthony, and you can listen there as well. A recording of the net will also be available probably sometime tomorrow on YouTube on the same channel. Another pause. A little confusing at first, but we'll try to iron things. Do the best that and for its participants. At this point in time, I would like to take check-ins. G3TZM, Golf 3 Tango, Zulu Mike.
(9H1 FBS) on frequency.
Nine H5 FA, Anthony. I acknowledge G3TZM and 9H5FA and the other checkers for the net this evening.
9H1 Fox Bravo Susan.
Peter, to see if there are any check-ins from there. H5FA and 7APW. And 7APW, 9H5FA. Has been silent, but I'm monitoring both the 9H1 radio for the people and the local, and the 9H1 VMR the people and the local, just in case someone for next week and then the so and introduce the people to the local. And just maybe that be 9H5FA. Yeah, Roger. Did you give out a call on the 9H1 UHF Peter to see if there are any people who are listening who would like to check in? And maybe that be 9H5FA. Good point. I haven't been off at work and definitely was on. Nine hotel five hospital for calling on 9 hotel 1 UHF are the people with 9 hotel hospital for calling on 9H1 UHF are the people. If there are any amateurs monitoring this band of the people at the moment and they wish to connect to the 9H have GlobalNet, at the moment the 9H have GlobalNet is not being transmitted, not being relayed to the people due to some technical issues. Either via any route to solve route 2780 or else via echoing H1VMR link via C4FM to the 9H1 VMR repeater. The 9H1 VMR repeater is currently operating on C4FM. I will be monitoring this channel just in case someone tries to check in from the iOS side. I hotel Firefox Alpha. 9 Hotel 1 Foxtrot Bravo Sugar. Okay, Charlie, good evening to you, 9H1 FBS with the 9H Ham GlobalNet, November 7 Alpha Papa Whiskey. And thank you for that announcement, Anthony, as well. Let's see, would you like to give us your presentation, Bill, or wait a few minutes? Perhaps others would join us for the next G3TZM with the 9H Ham G3TZM with the 9HM GlobalNet, November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey. Yeah, hello Jerry, N78PW and the net from G3TZM, Golf 3 Tango Zulu Mike. Yeah, good evening to you. Trust everything's okay, and I think the system seems to be working. The 9H1 UHF repeater is off air because the laptop that runs it currently is packed up altogether. I'm not quite sure what's wrong, and I'm waiting to hear whether there's anywhere I can supply some spares or something to enable it to become active again. But it's off air. And it's an APW G3TZM. Is that the repeater itself, or is it the echo link to the repeater, or both? Go ahead. From G3TZM. Apparently it's the laptop, something to do with the laptop that controls it, and it's, I don't know whether it's actually operational. I can't hear it from here, obviously Malta's too far away, but the Echo link, the laptop that links to Echo Link has failed completely, so there's no link to Echo Link over. Yeah, Roger, G3TZM and 78PW. I think the repeater itself may have some issues as well, because its coverage has decreased in the past week or two, and if I heard correctly, it may be an issue with a high SWR on the antenna. I would have reduced power as well because of high SWR to preserve the equipment. Okay, thanks for that information. I'm assuming, Anthony, the repeater itself is still up and running, because if I heard correctly, the squelch tail on the repeater when you were transmitting on 9H1 UHF in analog mode, I believe I heard that, and you can confirm that. 9H5 FA with the 9H Pound GlobalNet, November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey.
This is 9H5 FA with 9H Pound GlobalNet. Yes, that's a positive. On the analog side, the repeater is still functional, and for my QTH, I can hit the repeater perfectly well, even though apparently the power has reduced some of people high download SWR. So for my QTH car, it's working perfectly well. That's the 9H Pound GlobalNet. This is 9H5.
Very good, 9H5 FA with 9H Pound GlobalNet and 78PW. Now, I'll leave this totally up to you, Bill. Would you like to wait and postpone your presentation to where we have more check-ins? Of course, there's also the recording on 9HM on, my goodness, my mind sometimes, on YouTube, on the YouTube channel. So I'll leave that up to you. I'd love to hear it, but if you'd like to postpone it to a larger listenership, that's completely up to you. G3TZM with the 9HM GlobalNet and 78PW. Yeah, and 78PW and the net from G3TZM. Incidentally, good evening, Charlie. Long time no see. No hear, no speak, and everything. Jerry, I'm entirely in your hands. As soon as you want me to start, you tell me. If you want to wait for more check-ins, that's fine. I do think that Anton's listening. I don't know about Joey 9H1JL. I expect a lot of people are probably trying to listen to it on 9H1UHF, but I'm not sure how it's if anyone's connected to it to be able to rate yet. But there we are. Anyway, I'm entirely in your hands. So you say when, and it'll be when. N7APW, G3TZM. It almost sounds like words from a Beatles song. You say when, and I'll say then. Hello, goodbye. All right, enough silliness here. This is November 7 Alpha Papa Whiskey with the 9H pound GlobalNet. Are there any other checkers for the net at this point in time? Hearing none, this is N7APW with the 9H pound GlobalNet. Bill, it's all yours. G3TZM. Okay, fine. N7APW and the net from G3TZM. Okay, just for information that about every 3 minutes or so, I will drop carrier to reset the clock on the 9H1 DMR repeater, so that it gives a bit more time rather than running through and running out of time. Okay, good evening all. I was asked to talk on the subject of railways. As this year is the 200 years anniversary of the first passenger rail service in the UK, it's most appropriate to start with the past, then mention the present, and then look at future trends. The very first paid passenger service on the railway in the UK took place on the 27th of September 1825. However, many railways of the sort were in use long before then, mostly in mines. If you've ever been to Pompeii, then you will have seen cart ruts formed by the wheels of horse-drawn carts over 200 years ago. Out of interest, similar ancient cart ruts have been found in Malta at Santa Margherita on the outskirts of Mostar. Malta once had a railway from Valletta to Mdina. Originally it was to go to Mtafa, but the last stretch up the hill was too steep, so it ended behind Mdina. This railway ran from 1883 to 1931, and it was known as Il Vapor Talak. There's still much evidence of the Malta Railway visible today. Valletta station was underground, and the entrance was where the new government building now stands, in the ditch next to the main gate. The railway runs underground from here to Flockiana Station, whose entrance is near Argotty Gardens. It's currently being refurbished and is open to the public on occasions, the last one being on Sunday the 19th of October, which was the same day as Janata Jonna, and also the last day of Jota/Jyoti, the Jamboree on the Air. Railway exited from the tunnel close to Porta de Bombs, which you can still see with the bridge there too. The next station at Hamroon is behind the Benna Milk Factory and is now local scout headquarters. The line continued through Santa Venera along Sila Street to the station at Birkirkara, which is now the superb museum of the Malta Railway Foundation. It's run by Paul Gallia and his team and is definitely worth a visit. From here, the line ran along Trikil Ferrovia Lavima to Attard Station, which has now been refurbished.
G3TZM, do you copy?
Yep. Yeah, who's calling G3TZM over?
G3TZM, this is 9H5FA. For about 2 minutes, there was the connection from your end seemed to pause, but I've heard you over again, so I'm not sure. Maybe something to the network, I'm not sure. But yeah, you're fine now. G3TZM with the 9H5 GlobalNet. This is 9H5FA.
Yeah, Roger, I just took a break to reset the clock. Improvements and innovations, particularly in safety. Of course, rails have also improved from cart ruts to wooden rails, then cast iron to steel. This progress has been going on over many years, and there's been basic signalling starting in the 1800s, with a man walking in front of the train waving a flag. The influencers of the day spread the fear that going fast locomotives became progressively faster. Fear went. From speed controlled by the man in front of the train with a flag, eventually came the fastest steam locomotive in the world, called Mallard, which, in 1938, achieved a speed of 126 miles per hour, or 203 kilometers per hour, and is still the world record holder today. At the National Railway Museum in York, diesel and electric trains were introduced and were faster and cleaner too. With increase in speed comes a need for increased safety. Signals controlled from signal boxes along the lines were introduced. Tokens were invented for single line working, where only one train at a time can be allowed on the line because of some serious accidents that occurred. Now, they've got RETB, or Radio Electronic Token Block, is used and is carried out electronically using wireless on single lines. Also introduced early on was AWS, the automatic warning system, where locos and trains in fog or poor visibility have a bell ring in the cab for a green signal, but a horn blows for any other colour, including red. Failure to press the AWS button and cancel the horn when it blows automatically stops the train. The feature is the DVD, or DFD as it's sometimes known, the driver's vigilance device, replacing the old dead man's handle. It's alarm every few minutes and is cancelled by the driver lifting his feet off the foot pedal to cancel the alarm. Once again, failure to cancel stops the train. More innovation came with TPWS, which is Train Protection and Warning System. If a train passes a red light, the brakes are automatically applied. This system also has sensors built into the track where speed limits apply, and again, if the train exceeds the speed limit, the brakes are applied and the train is brought to a stop. And now for a reset brake. Train control has also improved, as we've seen earlier, from signal boxes operating levers, wires and rods to electromechanical, and now the signals are fully computerized in purpose-built rail operating centers, or ROCs, ROCs as they're known. Train drivers sometimes need to communicate with signalers. Communicate with signalers. This was done for many years in the UK using VHF two-way radio, known as cab secure radio, but it has now been largely replaced by GSM-R, which is Global System for Mobile Communications Railway, a form of cellular radio system just like your mobile phones. If a train is in trouble, the message can be automatically broadcast to other trains in the same area or region when a driver communicates with the signallers. Amateur radio in the railways meet well, with the Railways on the Air events taking place annually on the weekend around the 27th of September, the date of the first passenger service 200 years ago. They usually operate with special event calls on the amateur bands, and some operate direct from heritage railways. With all this technical innovation and progress, I haven't mentioned the many types of test trains that evolved over the years to check for any faults, etc. in the infrastructure. These include ultrasonic test trains that check for cracked rails, profile gauging trains that check for heights and other clearances around trains, and even one that checks for signal coverage of the GSMR system. However, my most favourite of them all is Network Rail's new measurement train, which I've ridden twice during test runs from Crewe to London Euston. This train is a former HST-125 converted to contain lots of test equipment and data gathering kits to record everything from railhead profiles, overhead wire configuration and height, together with inspection cameras underneath to record every inch of the track width. Cameras at the front for forward-looking inspection, and lots more, all carried out at line speed, in many cases 125 miles an hour or 200 kilometers per hour. Train with everything going on felt like 5 minutes because it was so interesting. Needless to say, this train has brought down rail defects and failures from over 300 per year to as little as about 4 or 5. And now for a break. The signal's gone off. Can anyone confirm it's still working? Okay, over. From G3TZM, yes. I was just saying that developments and speed achievements came with diesel and electric traction. The work was carried out here in the UK on magnetic levitation to make trains go even faster. The Japanese have continued with developing this mode of transport and have achieved speeds of 603 kilometers per hour or 377 miles an hour. However, the Japanese, continue to run some of their rail passenger trains at speeds of 320 kilometers per hour or 200 miles an hour. Other high-speed train operators include the Italians at 300 kph, Germany at 330, and France with their TGV at 320 kilometers per hour. My wife Margaret and I have travelled on the TGV a couple of times, from Paris to Geneva and Paris to Lyon. I'm guessing magnetic levitation may become more widespread. There's been a transition from early steam locos to diesel, electric, and now bi-mode, which is electric and diesel, and tri-mode traction, which is electric, diesel, and battery. There are also a few battery-only trains running. The latest UK locomotive is the Class 99 and is bi-mode, consisting of electric-only traction at 6,270 kilowatts or 8,270 horsepower, but it has a diesel generator for areas where there are no overhead wires. This engine is also capable of using HVO, or hydrogenated vegetable oil, i.e. purified used cooking oil instead of diesel fuel. I'll just take a quick break. The future for train control is known as ETCS, or European Train Control System, that's being rolled out all over Europe, including the UK. This brings a number of safety systems into the cab, including signals, speed control, and other information, thereby eliminating much infrastructure. Preserving the past for the future are the heritage or preserved railways, of which there are over 100 in the UK alone, and many more all over the world. Finally, in the year of the 200th anniversary, there have been events to highlight this important milestone, continuing until the end of the year. The biggest of these was the Greatest Gathering, it was called, which saw over 130 locos and trains together in one place in Derby in the UK. Excuse me, locomotives, including the first steam loco, together with Flying Scotsman and many more operational preserved steam locos, diesel, electric, bi-mode and tri-mode locos, electric and diesel multiple units, model railways, narrow gauge train rides on site, and much more were on show for 3 days. And people from all over the world. Margaret and I were there on the first day with 14,000 other people. We really could have done with all 3 days to see everything. Now, if you look for the Greatest Gathering on YouTube, you'll find dozens of videos made by different people from the event for you all to see. It's absolutely astonishing. So there you have it. I've given you a bit of the past, some of the present, and a little of the future of the railways. And I hope that you enjoyed it, and you can get more enjoyment from the videos too. Thank you. N78PW, G3TZM over. N78PW, excellent presentation, Bill. I've enjoyed every minute of it. I have a couple of questions, but before we do that, let me give applause. This is November 7th.
November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey. This is 9H5FA. Just a short note. I've had 9 Hotel to Mike Sierra, who tried to connect via analog 9H1 UHFR repeater. And I spoke to him and I told him of the current situation, and I informed him of ways to connect. But my understanding is that he didn't have these ways set up at the moment, but he, yeah, I think we should include him in the log file anyway. And 78PW, this is 9H5F.
Hey, could you repeat his call sign, please?
That's 9 Hotel to Mike Sierra. Back to the net.
In 9 Hotel 2, Mike Sierra. I haven't checked in. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Bill? November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey.
G3TZM, this is 9H5FA. Thank you very much for the interesting presentation, and really I wasn't aware of this development history of railways. I was intrigued by the past Malta railways and the car tracks. Also because car tracks have been found in different parts of the island, and yeah, one of the probably they were as just as you say methods of transport via carriage. or I'm not sure what sort of garage. I mean, but they have been declared as protected areas all over where they have been found in Malta. And there's at least one book which has been written about them, plus several articles online. I'm not sure if sort of prior to the actual train locomotives in the UK, was there anything similar in terms of issues and methods of sort of longer distance transport? I'm just asking, just curious. G3TZM with the 9H time GlobalNet. This is 9H5FM.
For the net this evening, November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey.
Yeah, Anthony, 9H5FA from G3TZM. I don't know what radio you were using, but you were getting digital breakup. When you were on your, I think it was on your phone earlier on, you were loud and clear. But with the whatever you've just been using, it's been breaking things up, and I'm not sure whether Jerry's overridden you as well. But to answer your questions, yes. And make a comment. The cart ruts, well, I know they've been preserved, and apparently it just happens to be coincidental that the cart ruts all appear to be 1500 millimeters gauge, or 1500 millimeters between them, which is actually, as it happens, the standard railway size throughout Europe. Although originally, when the railways started to get underway, Isambard Kingdom Brunel did the Great Western. He made them 7-foot gauge because he thought that if the train was wider, they could actually go faster. But what happened was George Stephenson and his son settled on the 4-foot 8.5 gauge, and that became the standard throughout. As for trains before the first passenger one, there were only horse-drawn carriages or horse-drawn wagons sometimes on wooden rails, but there was no long-distance stuff. The only long-distance carriages throughout the UK were horse-drawn carriages, which is why you had coaching inns all over the UK. 9H5F8, G3TZM over.
Allowing us to use the 9H1 DMR repeater on totally different modes. C4FM, also digitally on DMR, and also on Echolink. And the performance of the repeater is exceptional. That's the right word. Thank you, Antoine, very much. This is November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey, closing the 9H Ham GlobalNet and returning the 9H1 DMR repeater to normal amateur use. Thank you, everybody. 73s, good evening. With pleasure. I'm very happy with you, Bill. G3TZM and 7APW.
Yeah, okay, yeah, Jerry, no problem. Anthony, did you get my response over?
G3TZM 9H5FA, yes. I got you loud and clear, and you streamed loud and clear online as well. I'm using a handheld C4FM, and I can monitor myself pretty well on Echolink, so I'm not sure exactly what's happening. I think it must be a network thing. Thanks very much for your detailed thing, for a more detailed reply. But I have doubled with Jerry, I think twice. So, Jerry, I'm sure you were saying something before you closed the net. And you closed the net because we're doubling, so... So can I pass on the mic back to you? And 7APW, this is 9H5F.
Yeah, I'm doing a great job. I doubled with you and I doubled with Bill. Who was the, let me rephrase this question. Who was your transmission directed to, Bill? G3TZM, so that we can make sure that it's delivered, and 7APW.
Yeah, from G3TZM. Yes, Anthony asked about long distance travel in the UK before the railway really started, and I answered that, and also mentioned about the gauges of the cart ruts as well. Did you say you had some questions, Jerry? Over.
Roger, if I remember correctly, I was watching a video about the different rails in different countries in Europe, and how some trains that cross borders have to have a system that will cater for both. Or maybe it's high speed and low speed. I'm not sure exactly. Could you straighten me out on all that, Bill? I found it very intriguing as well. G3TZM and 7APW.
Yeah, and 7APW from G3TZM. Yes, there are the odd places. I'm not sure. They're very few and far between where they are different gauges, and there are provisions for changing the bogies on the trains so that they go from whatever it is, the narrower gauge to the wider one, and vice versa when they're going in the opposite direction. But I think they're very few and far between. Most trains have stopping trains, which are inherently slow, and some of them use the same lines as high-speed trains. Although in this country they have tried in many places to four-track the rail system, so you have a slow line and a fast line in one direction, and a slow line and a fast line in the other direction, so that fast trains can overtake slower ones where they need to, and so on. In some outlying rural areas, obviously it's only single track, and so they have to take care that there's only one train on the line at a time. But that's, I hope that clarifies it for you. And APW, G3TZM, over.
Roger, G3TZM 7APW. Yes, I'm assuming now track changing is mostly automatic.
No, not really. They, as I say, they do have to on some of the one or two of them. I know that they actually have to change the bogies, which they sort of jack the carriage up and wheel the bogies out and put some other bogies underneath. I'm not sure if there are any automatic ones over.
Change tracks, and that's always fascinated me. I know it's probably computerized now, but it's still a physical or mechanical process, I assume. And it's always fascinated me how trains could be traveling at a certain speed, and not derail. Hopefully none of them do, but I guess it could happen at a certain speed. And I was always fascinated, and I wonder if you could comment a bit on that as well, if you don't mind. G3TZM and 7APW.
Yeah, and 7APW from G3TZM. Yes, there's all sorts of things that happen with the speed changes. They did introduce tilting trains, but unfortunately, especially when the developed here in the UK, the press people all had a night out in Glasgow, and they had to get up early in the morning and get on the train. They all had rotten hangovers, and the tilting of the train going round, say, a left-hand curve and then a right-hand curve in quick succession. The train was tilting a bit like a boat. On a, when a boat does a high-speed turn, it tilts one way and then the other, and apparently it made them seasick. So, of course, being the media, being the press, they absolutely demolished the railway, and they said that it makes everybody sick. No, it doesn't make everybody sick. The thing that makes people sick is the fact that they were drinking all night before. But what does happen now on a lot of railway lines, in fact, we've got a problem here at our local station where they've got on the curve through the station to allow trains to run through here at 100 miles an hour. They've got what they call super elevation, and what that means is when the railway line starts to curve, what happens is they tilt the track so that the one rail is slightly higher than the other on the curve. So if it's a right-hand curve, as we've got through our station, if it's a right-hand curve, then the right-hand rail is actually lower than the left-hand rail, and this causes a problem on platform 2 at our local station, because when a stopping train stops there, the actual step for the train is higher than the platform. So we've had a couple of accidents where people have fallen off the train. And in one case, a woman cut her leg quite badly. And I've been calling for what they call Harrington humps, a little station called Harrington up in Cumbria. They actually put some raised sections in the platform to prevent this from happening. And 7APW, G3TZM.
G3TZM and 7APW. That's very interesting. So it's basically banked like a race track, I would imagine, if I envision it right. Thank you for that information. Very interesting.
Yeah, from G3TZM. Yeah, that's correct. It's banked, like you say, it's banked like the old racetracks. G3TZM.
An enjoyable presentation, Bill. Thank you very much. And 7APW.
G3ZM, this is 9H5SA. Well, one thing that intrigues me and continually keeps intriguing me is the underground train system in London. It's fascinating with multiple levels, and trains actually go left and right and up and down. And it's as smooth as anything and perfectly timed. And it's amazing. I'm not sure when that started actually, but it's been expanded regularly over the years, and it's still being expanded to my knowledge. Unfortunately, there have been some incidents of people throwing themselves onto the rails and getting electrocuted, I mean intentionally. And I'm not sure exactly what voltage runs through those rails, but yeah, there isn't much protection except this mind the gap notice continually going on. But it's an excellent system. When did that start? Do you have any idea when it started being developed? G3TZM with the 9H on GlobalNet. This is 9H5.
Yeah, 9H5FA from G3TZM, yes. The third rail and the third rail with the voltage on is 750 volts DC direct current, and the overhead wire is 25,000 volts AC, 25 kV AC. So when I did my track safety training for one of the jobs I was in government service, I had to pass both overhead and DC electrified lines training, and I've still got my cards when I passed those tests. But there are lots of problems with people jumping in front of trains. I've got quite a lot of friends who are train drivers. In fact, we've got a social next week, meeting up with a lot of them next week. One of the guys, he's never ever had anybody under one of his trains, and yet another pal of mine who lives locally, he's had 6, and the last one tipped him over the edge, and he had to finish in the end. He had to leave the railway. And last year, a friend of mine who's a lady train driver, she had one under her train, and it took her out of work for 6 months. And we did support her, of course, through messages and all the rest of it. And the other day, she texted me to say that she's coming through when she passed her assessment to get back on again. We actually went to meet her in Birmingham, and then the other day she texted me to say she's coming through our station, which she did at 100 miles an hour, waving like crazy and blowing the horn while I was at the station. So and she's back on form again, thankfully. IH5FA G3TZM.
G3TZM with a 9H on GlobalNet. This is 9H5FA. Wow, 750 volts there. That's 3 times, okay, NBC, that's 3 times our local AC voltage to domestic homes. And I didn't know that they had actually kilovolts running overhead. So when the train actually moves out of the station, and the first part, I'm talking to normal trains, not the underground ones, and it's in contact with the overhead cables, there's 25 kilovolts AC going through the system at that time. Wow. So when the train actually moves out of the station, the overhead cables stop usually at some point in time, and it's only powered through the rails. So at that point in time, is it powered just by the 750 volts DC? G3TZM with the 9H on GlobalNet. This is 9H5FA.
Yeah, 9H5FA from G3TZM. No, there's no break in the overhead wire. If the trains are run on 25 kV, they run on 25 kV, and the overhead wires are continuous, even sometimes under bridges and in tunnels. And what they do is, instead of using a wire under the tunnels, they now use a solid rail. Where you'll find that there's a zigzag. The wire actually zigzags. It never runs in a straight line. It always zigzags, because if it didn't, it would cut a groove in the pantograph on the top of the train. The DT rails are used in the southern region of the UK, from places like Victoria and Waterloo in London, Charing Cross and south into Kent, Surrey, Sussex, Hampshire, and down as far as Bournemouth. They use the 750 DC rails, and elsewhere in the UK where there are electric trains are in G3TZM over.
GlobalNet, this is 9H5SA. I had a drop. I'm going to repeat my call sign. G3TZM with a 9H5 GlobalNet. This is 9H5SA. All right, that's really interesting. I was under the impression that when the train actually distanced itself from the station, the actual overhead wires, for some reason, decrease, or at least the spans for them are further apart. So usually there's a sort of a more dense, at least what appears to me as a more dense network of overhead cables within the station itself. But you're right, yeah, the wire cables actually never stop. Yeah, I guess these need regular maintenance. I mean, the electrical contacts, everything, the cables and the trains. I'm not sure how they do it, but I guess they've got miles and miles and miles of cabling there. I mean, to keep the system up and running, I guess it is, I don't know, I mean, a huge job on the part of the railway operators. G3TZM with the 9H5 GlobalNet. This is 9H5.
Yeah, that's what these test trains are for. A lot of them actually test for all that sort of stuff. And in fact, the new measurement train's got two cameras, one pointing forward, one pointing back at the wires, so they can actually inspect it while they're on the move. But yes, it is a maintenance job, and it's all carried out by Network Rails. They're the infrastructure managers. They've got the problem of looking after all that, and they do occasionally have to what they call take possession of a line and drop the wire and replace the wire, put new wires in, and they've got special trains that do that. And as you can imagine, with the weather, wind and rain and ice and everything, that there are problems caused by that and damage. And so, of course, the gangs have to go out and do the repairs accordingly. But of course, they do. They have what they call an ECO, an electrical control officer, who actually is switching the supplies off on certain sections, and they earth the sections that they're going to work on. They've got a special earthing equipment that they can use, and then they can carry out all the work that they need to. And then when they've finished, they disconnect all that, and then tell the EPO, and they can power it back up again. And that's how it's done. G3TZM.
G3TZM with the 9H ham GlobalNet. This is 9H5. Thanks, Bill. Thanks for the excellent presentation and details, really. I mean, this will be obviously on the YouTube channel and it will be available online. From sort of the back end of the YouTube channel, there are views of the 9H ham nets. People actually do go onto YouTube and view them and listen to them because you can get that from the back end of the YouTube account. Yeah, thanks, Bill. I'll pass on to Jerry, I guess, is M7APW with the 9H ham GlobalNet. This is 9H5FM.
Very good, Anthony. Thank you once again, Bill. Very interesting indeed. I enjoyed every moment of it. Does anybody have anything else for the net this evening before I close the net? Hearing nothing, I'd like to thank everybody for checking in. We had a total of 1, 2, 4, 5 check-ins tonight, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong. And I'd like to invite everybody to check in again in 2 weeks for another edition of the 9H ham GlobalNet. I'd like to thank 9H1 US, trustee of the 9H1 DMR repeater, for allowing us to carry the net on various digital modes, including Echolink, DMR, and C4 FM, and so that people have options and places as to how to check into the net. I'm going to give a short pause. If I hear nothing, I will close the net. November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey. Thank you, everybody, for checking into the net. I hope everybody has a great evening. November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey, returning the repeaters to normal hours.
Yeah, cheers, Jerry, from G3TZM, and Anthony, for thanks for inviting me to make a presentation. I hope it goes down well. And don't forget to look on YouTube for the greatest gathering, and you can see this huge amount of stuff. And in fact, on the 25th of November, the guy that organised it all and one of his team will be doing a presentation for us in Birmingham. We've got it tied up with our Christmas social, so we're expecting a lot of people to attend. So 73 everybody, and see you later. G3TZM clear.
G3TZM. Thanks a lot, Bill. Jerry, M7APW. Perhaps you could put that link, which of the greatest gathering, on the note section of the on YouTube, where where today's net will be archived and made available anyway. What do you think? I mean, I'm asking you because you take care of the of the YouTube channel. I just stream, but you do all the editing afterwards, and thank you for that, by the way. And so maybe probably 9H5.